One thing that seems to get photographers that engage in web form activity, for instance, fired up is sensor size. So listen, I am not the world's greatest expert. However, you probably don't know anybody that shot as many different cameras under critical situations, particularly different sensor sizes, than me. We traveled the world pretty much shooting medium format digital as well as medium format film and large format film. Some of the celebrities I shot earlier on were actually 4x5 sheets of film. Well, we've used all kinds of different sensors, and I completely understand how lenses and depth of field, all that stuff works. I got it. But you will find out that sensor size is nothing that we need to argue about, basically. If you have a smaller sensor, you're going to be dealing with shallow depth of field issues. Here's what I mean. If your work, like my work, relies on depth of field as a creative element, I like shallow depth of field. When you use a small sensor at, say, f4, for instance, on a small sensor, you're going to get a lot of depth of field. But if you had an 8x10 camera with that same lens at f4, you'd have an extraordinarily shallow depth of field. Other than that, there is no difference in sensor size. And I know that's going to get some of my Fuji and Sony friends all fired up because they're trying to sell cameras based on sensor size. And if you think you need a full frame sensor, well then good on you. You may, but most people, particularly ones that argue in a rather destructive tone, they don't really know what they're talking about, full frame sensor. If you need one, buy one. If you don't buy one. It's really that simple. What do I mean? Well, let me share with you. If we're going to choose a mirrorless camera based on sensor size, it's probably because you need to have a high resolution image with a lot of small detail. For instance, if you're photographing professional football teams and you've got to do that big group shot where you've got 70 people that are in that big old shot and you're going to make a big beautiful poster, that's actually a medium format digital job. That's not even a small camera sensor job, but you'll need a full frame sensor DSLR to get that done. Now, I'm hypercritical of image quality when it comes to my own work, and I want to show you. Take a look down here. I've got a couple of prints set up here in this funky alley, and I'm going to show you what an image looks like, a final image looks like that's fine with me. Now, if you were to take the same camera I did and shoot the same type of conditions and make the same print, we happen to have a very high-end inkjet printing system in our lab, you may look at this and say, I don't like this. It needs to have more detail. All right, I don't. When you take a look at this, this is what I call my master print format. This is a JPEG shot square on a Fuji XE, I believe. Yep. The blue tint that you see in the vignette and the border were added in post, right? Lightroom. But the fine detail that you see there is indicative of what a mirrorless camera can do, right? If you want to shoot RAW, that's terrific, but we're talking about the power of the sensor here. This sensor on the Fuji camera gives me all the info that I need. It does. Now, the Lumix camera that I shoot does have a smaller sensor. Does it make a big difference on a print like this? Not at all. If I were to have shot this with a leaf back with a 48 megapixel sensor, would I have gotten a more detailed image? Oh yeah. Would I have gotten more highlight and shadow detail? Sure. Does it matter? For me? No. The print's fine. That's a print that I put my name on and I'll sign it. And it was shot with a mirrorless camera with a medium-sized sensor, you know, the regular old stuff. Now, do I have the ability to shoot some bigger sensor? Of course I do. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. Plus, you got to realize, too, that we're moving into the age of screens, right? Right now, video is 1080. That means it's 1920 pixels wide by 1080 pixels tall. That's high definition TV. We're moving into 2K and 4K, granted, but your camera needs to fill up a screen, a 1080 screen, right? Beyond that, you're going to be making big prints. So to have a bigger full frame sensor to give you better, sharper, beautiful, crisper prints, that's totally fine. To say that you need one, different story. There's a lot of things that smaller sensor cameras will do. Here's one of them. This is a panoramic print made from a Fuji camera. Looks familiar, right? This is the final closing panorama from one of the E products that I've created. This is created with the Fuji X in its panoramic mode, going from left to right, and it'll click, 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 and take multiple pictures, and it'll fuse them together in the camera. Takes about 10-15 seconds for it to go ahead and zip everything through, but you'll notice it's got that big punchy color, right? It's got that contrast that I'm looking for. Why? I pre-processed it. Sure. All the contrast adjustments, instead of doing it in post-production, I did them in the camera. That way my video and my photo match. The big bold color, the Velvia film simulation mode, right? I put that in the camera, pre-processing. Yeah, why? Well, that way my photo and my video match. And creatively, while I'm shooting it, I get that big color and I get that big contrast. For me, this job is better, and my client is just as happy, I'm assuming. I shot it with a mirrorless camera, and it enabled me to do it faster and to pre-process that file the way I want to. I'm very happy with it. This is something that shows you where a mirrorless camera will get the job done better, faster, easier than a DSLR. Think about it.
Talking portraiture, e-products, auto editing, e-templates, educational videos for shooting smarter, not harder at thePHOTOchannel.pro.